Undefeated UFC bantamweight prospect Jack Shore, thank you so much for the time today. It is awkward times in the world. How are you holding up?
Yes, mate, I'm all good. All the better now for getting a fight booked. Like you said, very weird times, but it's nice to get back to a bit of normality now with an upcoming fight. So fingers crossed we're over the hill and we can put this all behind us soon.
Let's rewind back to the week leading up to UFC London. You were supposed to fight on that card in March. Of course, they canceled it. Take me through the last couple of days, or even that week.
Yeah, so I mean, they cancelled the fight on the Sunday before the show, but pretty much in the UK for like sort of 5-6 days before that, things were starting to get serious. Like they cancelled the Premier League football, the Six Nations rugby, which is a big deal over here. So all the big sports are getting cancelled. So although obviously I hadn't been told at this stage, I sort of had an inkling that it might not go ahead, or it might be behind closed doors, or there was talk of moving it to America on short notice. So it was all up in the air a little bit. And then obviously you factor in that obviously I'm weight cutting, so I'm starting to bring my weight down a little bit, and obviously I'm still trying to train and everything. This was before obviously the gyms got closed. So it was a bit of a surreal week. And then on the Sunday then, me and my coach did our usual session that we do a week before the fight, so some pads and a bit of like a fight simulation then. And we jumped in the sauna just to relax a little bit after training. And then we had a text come through to say that the O2 Arena had obviously cancelled all events. Graham said that there was a Cage Warriors show still going ahead, that they may try and get some UFC fights on, and there was also talk of getting some fights on in America. So he said, just leave it with me and I'll get back to you. He came back to me then and said that I couldn't go to America, obviously, because I didn't have a current visa. So they weren't taking no new visa applications, because it would have took too long for it to go through, for me to get on a flight and get over there in time. And same with my opponent as well, obviously being Brazilian, he would have had to get to Vegas. And then there was talk of the Cage Warriors show, but again, because my opponent is from Brazil, he wasn't already in the country, so it was just they couldn't make it happen. So it was a bit surreal. And then obviously the following Friday, then the UK went into lockdown. So I'm sort of glad they cancelled it when they did on the Sunday, because it would have been even more heartbreaking if we got to the Friday, weighed in, and then the night before the fight, the UK went into shutdown and we couldn't fight a day out. So it was tough to take, but at least we had a couple of days notice, rather than less than 24 hours.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because a couple of the fighters that were in the US, they actually flew over.
Yeah. I know. I know Meatball Molly McCann was fighting an American girl, Ashley Evans Smith, and she was already in the UK. But I seen that they pretty much said, look, you got the show's off, and they sent her back, I think, before contemplating putting her on the Cage Warriors bill. So it was just a crazy week. It was like we didn't know if he was coming or going. And we'd never been in a situation like this before. It wasn't like the show had been cancelled because of pullouts or injuries. It was because like the world was going into shutdown. So it was a tough one to deal with, especially as well. Then you factor in like the UK government was going into lockdown. We didn't know. Personally, I didn't think we'd be fighting this year. I'm just glad that it's come full circle and we're actually able to get out now, sort of 3-4 months later.
Some of the fighters that were supposed to be on that card, they actually went and fought on Cage Warriors that week. Was that an option for you? Or because I've asked other fighters and they said, I'm a UFC fighter. I'm not going to go fight in Cage Warriors. That's just not something I would do. Would that be your attitude to it too?
Yeah, to an extent. Like I've spent 10 fights with Cage Warriors as an up-and-coming pro. Obviously, I earned my shot in the UFC. I had the one fight, so I think it would have took a little bit of sting, a little bit of wind out of my sails, I suppose, going back to Cage Warriors and fighting when I was only just one. Maybe if I'd had sort of like 5-6 fights in the UFC and there was a chance to get paid and there was a chance to salvage a fight, maybe I would have looked at doing it. But like you said, to go away and have one fight in the UFC and then sort of have to go back to Cage Warriors, and this is nothing on Cage Warriors. I love Cage Warriors, and I used to love fighting for them. But it would have took a little bit away from the occasion, I think, going there to fight. But obviously, with my opponent being Brazilian and not over here yet, it wasn't really even an option. So, I didn't get put in that spot. But I know you're right. A lot of guys sort of said the same thing. I think that they would rather just wait and get rescheduled down the line rather than, sort of go back to the European scene and fight.
The UFC, they did a good thing and compensated everybody on the card. After that, what did they tell you? Were they telling you stay ready, or were they telling you like, we don't know what's gonna happen, so just go back home and chill out?
Yeah, so they obviously compensated us. We was kept in the dark a little bit, and then about a week or two later, there was like a big video chat with Dana White. And basically, you know, in all fairness to the UFC, they said, look, we're in strange times. They said about the Apex, and they said about Fight Island is going to happen. But they also said, look, if you can't train and you don't feel like, you know, you're going to be ready to fight, you don't have to fight. You know, they made it very clear that they're not putting no pressure on guys to jump in there and fight. If you don't want to fight, you know, because you don't think you're ready and you don't want to risk catching COVID or anything like that, then you don't have to. So they made that clear to us. That, you know, a couple of weeks later, obviously, I think people were still skeptical as to whether Fight Island was a real thing. You know, they kept talking about it, but there was no like location announced. There was no pictures announced. There was no dates even announced. And then I got a text about, you know, a couple of weeks ago off my manager. This was obviously before they announced it was in Abu Dhabi, and said, "Do you want to fight on Fight Island?" So obviously I said yeah, and I was like, where's it to? And he was like, I don't know where it is. I don't know how we're getting there, but they just asked, do you want to fight? So I was relieved to hear that. In Wales, we've had the green light now where pro athletes can train again. Although the gyms are open to the public, we can start training, and obviously Brett Johns is on the card as well. So me and him we've both been tested and been able to train without, you know, worrying about getting, you know, coming down with anything. So although it's been like a shorter camp than what I'm used to, it seemed to have worked out well. You know, it's been a bit of a rush job in the sense of, you know, you're fighting in 5 weeks and we don't know where, and now all of a sudden, you know, right, you're going to Abu Dhabi in a week. But, you know, I'm just happy to be back in fight camp, happy to be back preparing for a fight, and just looking forward to getting back in there.
Now, with the pandemic and the lockdown, what was the impact like for you and your gym, Shore Mixed Martial Arts?
Yeah, it was terrible. Obviously, we had just got to a point. We've been open around about 6 months, and the momentum we had was flying. Obviously, I had won my fight in the UFC. The gym was packed to the rafters. You know, in the fitness rooms, in the BJJ. That's every class we put on was packed to the rafters. And then obviously I was meant to fight on the London card. Jack Marshall was meant to fight on the London card as well. So we had two guys from the same gym. Brett Johns had just joined our team, and he was due to fight in April out in America. So we had, like, you know, 3 UFC fights booked in the space of sort of 4 or 5 weeks. So, you know, the vibe at the gym, the atmosphere was through the roof. And then, you know, the government just said, look, gyms are going to close. So it was a big hit to us. I mean, we didn't know how we were going to look financially. We didn't know when we'd be back open. We still don't know, really. I mean, it's looking closer now than what it was back then. But, you know, at the time, I think that was 4 months ago. So we didn't know what to tell our members, what to tell the staff. But, you know, thankfully, we've had a lot of loyal members who've stayed loyal to us. They're still paying their membership despite the gym being closed. And obviously, my father and myself can't thank them enough for that. So, you know, it ensures now that as soon as the government say we can open back up, then we are good to go, and just, you know, hopefully we can pick off like we never left.
Yeah, that's good to hear, because last time we spoke, you were talking so much about your gym and how great it is, and how high level of a gym it is in your country, and to have that taken away would be a big hit.
Yeah, obviously, like, we're very fortunate. I mean, I've seen a lot of smaller gyms in America, you know, like jiu-jitsu gyms and Thai boxing gyms have been forced to shut down because obviously they still got to pay rent and their bills and stuff like that, but they're not making any money from, you know, because they got no classes and no members, you know, still paying. So we're fortunate, I think, that we live in like a smaller, tight-knit community where the old members and even the new members have sort of stayed loyal and said, look, we'll support you through this. You know, we're happy to keep paying, and you know, thankfully that it is mean that we haven't had to close down, which would have been a shame for us, my father, and obviously all the students as well, to have such a big facility that's so good taken away from us. But, you know, we're over that now, and I think probably sort of a month or two now we'll see us back open and back running as normal.
Yeah, I hope so. Now, during the lockdown, I see that you did a lot of biking, and of course you're probably working out outside, running. Is your cardio hitting another level?
Yeah, like, I mean, I always pride myself on my cardio. You know, I'm one of those guys who sort of probably prefer a 5-round fight to a 3-round fight. I've always sort of been one of those guys who's, you know, I may not be as skillful as my opponent or whatever. But there's no way that they'll be fitter than me. The way I train is not possible. And obviously, with the gym being closed, I had to get out and do something. So I've just been running. I invested in a road bike so I could do a little bit, just to mix it up a bit. You can't run 3 times a day. So I feel like that's all paid off. Despite being back in fight camp now, I've still factored in. I'm doing a lot more road running. I'm out on the bike 2-3 times a week, for like 4 hours a time sometimes. So I think I'm building on that sort of Nick Diaz sort of cardio now, where I'm not, I can sort of go all day if I go. I'm not, I always had the explosive fitness. I can always explode and wrestle and scramble, but now I'm starting to build that cardio as well, where I can be in there for 25 minutes and constantly put an output. So I definitely feel like, I haven't let a lockdown, go to waste. I haven't sat on my ass for 3 months. I've continued to work, continued to train where I can, and, just made the best of a bad situation.
That's kind of scary because you already have this like gas tank that you're known for, and then you add to that, it's like, I don't know, I'm expecting something, in this fight coming up. Now, when did you get back into the gym?
We got back in, when was it? Around probably about 4 weeks ago. We started doing, like I said, the pros had the green light, so we started doing some pro sessions, obviously social distancing. We managed to get tested then, all of us, where obviously it was looking like we was going to get fights booked, me and Brett. So, we got a test in to make sure, look, can we be doing some contact? And we've done what we had to do, but it is nice to be back in the gym. It's nice to be sharpening up again with the striking, because you can be as fit as you want running and biking, but there's no fitness like fight fitness. If you want to be truly fighting fit, you've got to be, as you know, rolling and striking and scrambling and wrestling. So, it's just good to be back in there and getting sharp again. The first sort of 10 days was rough because we was all very rusty, very flinching from shots, not scrambling as well, a little bit lazy on the floor. But now I think we're all starting to sharpen up, and we're all, me and Brett are peaking now, ready for the next 2 weeks. And the other pros who are not even in the UFC, they go even longer to get ready. They're looking at like September, October time, so they're going to be different animals as well by the time their fights come around. So the goal is, get this fight done, get straight back in the gym, and let's hope, that the UFC want to go back to Fight Island in 8 weeks' time, and we can, turn the ship around quick and get back out there.
Yeah, that's what it looks like it's going to be. They're going to have fights in Abu Dhabi, and they're going to have fights at the Apex, and they're just going to be going back and forth. So that's kind of like your plan, is to just fight every time they go to Fight Island.
Yeah, because obviously I've been told I probably won't be able to fight in America just because I've heard they're not accepting new visa applications, and obviously where I haven't been to the States for 3 years, my visa from back then would be void, so I'd need to apply and I wouldn't get accepted to go there. But obviously with this Fight Island now, I'm fortunate enough that, like you said, I can fight. I know they're in the Apex and everything next month, so September, October time, even November time, it'd be nice to get back out there, another time this year. Salvage a year, but I thought we wouldn't be fighting at all this year. So if I can get 2 fights in before the end of the year, then I'd be over the moon with that.
Yeah, it's a great time. It's kind of weird to say that because the world is kind of in this weird period, but for a fighter in the UFC, it could be a great time for you to just get many fights in a row and kind of build your name while other guys sit on the sideline.
Well, I mean, it's a perfect opportunity for young fighters to, just stay. The best advice is probably got to be stay fit and stay ready, because I mean, look at Gilbert Burns. He fought just before the lockdown, then he fought a couple of weeks ago against Woodley. Now he's in for the title. He's had 3 fights in 4 months, and look at it from a financial perspective as well. He's making good money, whereas a lot of athletes have been forced to sit on the side, and we're still in lockdown in the UK, so there's nothing to do. We can't go out drinking and partying and socialising. We can either stay in the house or go and train. So we just want to make the most of this, I think, and obviously, as long providing we're not injured and we don't pick up no cuts or anything, it'd be nice to just, like you said, turn it around and get back in there. Let's keep the ball rolling once we can. It's been almost 10 months between fights for you, longest layoff of your career, I believe. Was it somewhat of a blessing, do you feel? I mean, there's pros and cons for it. Like, I've always wanted to stay busy. If I'm not injured, then I want to be fighting. So, like you said, it's the longest layoff I've ever had between fights. So, also, I've got that itch now where I can't wait to get back in there, Whereas after the last fight, I was happy that I got the performance I had. I had the gym opening, so I wanted to focus on that a little bit before Christmas. And obviously the London card would have been ideal timing because had I fought on the London card, I'd probably have had 3-4 fights this year. But like you said, you can't do nothing about this pandemic and the lockdown. So you can either look at it negatively or look at it positively. And I'm looking at it as it's just giving me time to grow. Is it longer than I would have liked to be out of the cage? Yeah, obviously, but I'm only getting better in those 10 months I've had off. It's not like I've had 10 months, sat in the house doing nothing. I've been constantly training, constantly improving, constantly working with top level coaches. So it just means that I'm going to go in there with a complete different package and an upgraded skill set, ready for this next performance.
With your reputation, in Europe and in your first fight in the UFC, you have become like part of this group, this next wave of bantamweights, right? Because right now this wave of bantamweights up at the top is pretty insane. But you're coming. How do you? When does your mentality shift to like calling people out? You know what I mean? Or maybe even like selecting certain fights instead of just taking the fights that they give you.
Yeah, obviously there's got to come a time where you've got to start pushing for that. I mean, my goals were to, like I said, get 3 fights in this year. Let the UFC know what I'm about. Let them know that I'll fight whoever they put in front of me. And obviously, if I had got my 3 fights in this year, I would have been 4-0 in the UFC by the end of the year. And then I think I would have put myself in a spot where I could start asking for these names. I mean, maybe not so much the top 5 guys, but definitely top 15 or guys like just outside of that. So that was the plan. I mean, for a long time, or for a couple of months at least, I thought that that may have been knocked back a year. But I think now 2-3 fights, especially if I put on good performances and look good, then I think I probably won't even have to call people out, because I think they'll start to see what I'm about, start to see what I bring to the table, and start to put me in with these guys who's already made a name for themselves, and think, let's see if he can hang with these guys. And once I get that shot against one of them, to put my name in the mix, and it's just moving up and up and up the ladder from there from me. And I've always been like that. As long as I'm winning, I don't want to be taking backward steps. I want to be fighting better guys every time, like I did in Cage Warriors. Slowly build myself up, and then hopefully this time in 12 months, I'll be knocking on the door top 10 where I can start calling for some big names then.
All right, so now Fight Island, you're gonna take on a Brazilian. You were supposed to take on a Brazilian at UFC London. Now you switched it up, got another Brazilian, Anderson Dos Santos. He's got a lot of experience, some decent wins outside the UFC, but winless in the UFC. From watching some of his film, what do you assess?
Yeah, I've watched his fights, and he actually fought a friend of mine, Nad Nauman, and me and Nad done a bit of training together. So I remember actually helping Nad prepare for that fight. But obviously at the time, I didn't take a great look into Anderson's sort of skill set. I was just there as a body to help Nad spar. But yeah, he's very aggressive. He's got a typical Brazilian style. Very come forward, throws wild every shots, and a good grappler. But like you said, he's winless in the UFC. He's lost his last 2 against good opponents, nonetheless. But I think he's going to come out, a bit like a cornered dog. Come out aggressive and fast, and want to show that he belongs in there. I think you look at both our skill sets. I personally believe I'm better than him in all areas, and I think he's probably going to come out and know that he needs to enforce his game plan early on if he wants to outpoint me or put me away. So I expect to come out aggressive and come out fast, but that suits my style. I'm not one of those guys who will crumble if someone's pushing me forward. We've seen that in the last fight, and I'm just looking to go out there. I mean, there's no real game plan for this fight. It's just go out there like I always do, go with the flow of the fight, see what he offers up, and to take it from there. If I feel like I can get him out there on the feet, and I feel like I can get him out there on the ground as well. It's just a matter of seeing how is he going to come out aggressive because he's lost his last fight, or is he going to come out cautious and try and play it safe and point his way to victory? So we'll see how he comes out of the gate, and we'll assess it from there. But I'm comfortable wherever this fight goes.
So you look at it as like you're gonna see what he brings to the table first, and then basically adapt and adjust and improvise in this fight.
Yeah, to be honest, that's how I try and focus on a lot of my fights. I always watch footage and take into account the opponent's strengths and weaknesses, and where I think I have the edge. But ultimately, I just try and focus on my own skill set and getting better, because I think sometimes you can have a set game plan, and if that doesn't go right, then people start to panic and, think, what do I do from here? Whereas with me, I think if I just go out there, fight on instinct, if I hit the takedown, or if I fight on the feet for a round, I just take it as it comes. And I tend to find that that's probably my best performances. You know, in the last fight, Noeline was known as this good level striker. So, you know, a lot of people probably would have thought I would just be going up there and shooting from the rafters for the takedown. But, you know, it doesn't ever work that way. I just went up there, went with the flow, hit a couple of takedowns, and then I started to find my rhythm on the feet as well. So I want to try and approach this one the same way, you know, go out, see how the fight goes, and think on my feet and let my instincts take over.
July 15th, UFC Fight Night, Yas Island, Abu Dhabi, a.k.a. Fight Island. Jack, thank you so much for the time. Enjoy the fight. Be safe, and we'll speak soon.
Yes, definitely, mate. Thanks again. Enjoyed it as always.